Firstly, I would like to bring up in this review that a lot of people were talking about Tabata as if he somehow lost his way and, he's now crashed the series into the dirt and he just pulled this all out of nowhere and he didn't know what he was doing. I'm just going to go with that and prove, in this chapter, confirmed, brought out, and explained that we were correct. We were 100% correct on the reasoning for Julius's revival and this younger body, and that he is going to not just be, oh, I'm back, but I'm in a younger body. He's extremely nerfed. He's very much weakened, and there were other aspects that were building up to it, other parts that we knew of, because we knew about things like the magic tools that were all scattered around. But first off, let's get to the chapter itself. So now we have Julius, now in this kid form. I think it should be around 13 years. He said he had 13 years of time stored within the mark on his forehead. He's talking to William and Yami. And Yami's in a little bit of a disbelief because he's like, I actually watched you die. I was there. You even said some really meaningful parting words, and I struggled through my own tears and held back, and then we just went right into battle and let things go. You can't just come back to life as like Jesus days later. Some kind of comedic I don't know if you're serious things, but at the same time, Yami's like, is though on the other hand very believable that you would have something crazy like this up your sleeve. And again, people saw this. Back in the chapter where Yami was there when he died, there was a very, very specific panel that made it clear. And in that panel, not only was there, on that same page, another one of the mark on Julius' head crumbling away, but we got specifically a panel of its very own for the mark. And we knew since the beginning of the series, the mark had to have some form of relevancy. A lot of people thought it was like a mark of the Wizard King, Magic Emperor, whatever. But it had something significant. In addition, not only that, is it completely possible, because we already know from when he was hurt by Patri's magic, he could use time on himself to reverse the wound on his body. He's literally reversing time on a portion of his physical being. So we already know that he could affect his own self with time magic. And it's not, again, completely how can he do that? Well, it's no, we know he's stockpiled magic, and that being his time magic, he can affect himself. We knew the mark was important. What a surprise. Tabata had this all planned out, and he knew what he was doing. Yeah, I don't know why people are still flipping out about it, because the thing is, I still am in full agreement. I think him, at least from what we know right now, because all we know right now is he's younger, he's got some premonitions to bring up, and he's way weakened because he's only got one page of his grimoire back, because we know, we see that single page at the end of chapter 214 and 215, he's holding a single page, and it literally explains, essentially, his magic is gone, and the battle weakened the influence nobilities had over the country, and who should control it. But with that, we're going over his whole layout of what's going on, and his first off, actually, I want to skip this small portion and come back to it rather, because people have been really jumping on trying to defend William, and similar to when I was talking about, the thing is, you can like William. Same thing with, you don't have to like the plot twist of Julius coming back. The thing is, though, I would personally, from what we've seen so far, been fine with him being dead, given what it could have done for someone like Yami, giving him some really interesting character progression. This could still lead to some pretty nice and interesting stuff, but for the most part, it doesn't matter in personal opinions. What matters is it makes sense to the story. It was foreshadowed, it was set up. Tabata knew what he was doing. He didn't just decide this last second. And that does happen sometimes with mangaka when they make a last second decision, and maybe that'll look a little bit shaky in some areas. For instance, Hiramashima wasn't sure with Silver, the member of a Tartarus, if he was going to end up being Gray's father or Deliora, and he ended up going with Silver. But there's actually a part that kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense with that reveal, because there's a part where Kyoka like says like, I'm surprised you showed up in your human form, but it's like that part doesn't really hold water, like unless it later, if he became Deliora, it makes sense, but it wasn't. So it's like that, yeah, you got a little bit of a problem there. It's not a big deal, but it's still, you know, one of those parts you're like, you can tell that he wasn't too sure at this part. But this is a case where Tabata clearly knew way beforehand. And again, it's more important that it makes sense into the series rather than someone's personal opinions, how they would like it to go. But anyway, going off of that, when we look at William, I can understand why people like William. I'm not saying he's a bad character in terms of like his influence in the story, what he's done. I mean, in terms of like if you were in the Black Clover world and not a reader, I feel like you would just say like, dude, you're scum. What the fuck is wrong with you? Because in reality, all the crimes that he committed, like accessory to murder, harboring a terrorist, conspiracy to commit murder, all these different things, you can exclude those and just go on high treason, and he would be executed. Like, there would be no saving him, really. Like, it would just be, no, we're taking you out. You're done. You're dead. The only reason that he will live is because Julius is a bro, and he's taking responsibility onto himself. And that just seems like, again, like a Julius thing. Julius is just, he's an everyman. He's just really good at just being that, I don't want to say spiritual, more of just like shining beacon of a leader, because he's not like, your faults are on me because I'm supposed to lead you, so I did a bad job. And it's like, God damn it, Julius, even as a little 13-year-old little boy, he's still a goddamn wise guy. But, and I mean wise as in actually wise, not like the joke. But he's explaining, he's like, you know, he's like, all this stuff you've done, it's a serious crime, but right now we don't have the time to be screwing around. You know, there's a lot up ahead. And William's like, you know, he's like, Grimoires once again and always will be yours. And with that, I can kind of be like, sorta, because he's still, I mean, he risked Julius and the country, which it's like, Julius, but him in between Patri, that was much more personal between two characters. But you can't say the country, because giving Patri the chance to do like the plan, and with the elf resurrection and you know, that whole scheme, still had the possibility of genocide against the humans, the complete destruction of the Clover Kingdom. Like, keep that in mind. He was like, I know this could risk everything and the lives of every single person I swore to protect, but you know, I can't stand by William to any capacity over that. Like, I've seen people on board with like, oh, it's not his fault, you know, Patri was his buddy. That doesn't matter, because he swore to serve and protect the Clover Kingdom and his fellow Magic Knights, and he betrayed them amongst multiple other crimes. Again, in reality, I mean, it's not reality. In any situation where you take Julius out of this picture, like, I can bet you that William would have been executed, like, very shortly in. But after that point, he brings up that there are 3 issues going on right now. One is that the Magic Emperor or Wizard King is gone, and they're like, what do you mean, you're right here? And again, that's when he takes out the singular page, because we know his grimoire doesn't have a cover. It's just pages, so only one of those pages is left, so he's holding just a blank piece of paper. This is all he has. And there's still like the question of whether or not it's gonna grow. Like, is he always gonna have one page? As the years go by and he becomes more powerful, are they gonna start forming again? We don't know how time magic really works, because we've only seen one time age, and up until this point, he started out in the series as a paragon character of this absurdly strong character that is unrivaled by a majority of the people in the entirety of it that we know of. But after that point, when Asta's like asking him how he got so small, he's explaining that there was a magic tool at one point that he found, a magic storing kind of item he called the Swallowtail, and that's where the mark on his forehead came from, which again makes sense. The mark had always stood out with this character. We never really knew what it did. We had no idea what about it was relevant. We just knew that he had this strange mark on his forehead that stood out. And eventually we got some indications on it that it was, that it had some form of significance when it was crumbling away when he was dying. There was an aspect about it that, you know, Tabata was saying, take note of this, because it's going to be important later, whether it's at the end of this arc or who knows when. And, you know, obviously we saw where it went. But from this, there's actually a funny part where he's talking about, and he's like, sees Sekri. And again, I'm still curious if she's going to still go by Sekri or go by Nero. But he's like freaking out because he wants to know what kind of magic she uses, because, you know, he's still Julius, he's still a magic freak, and he wants to see all these strange magics. He just wants to analyze other people and whatnot. But he says that the Clover Kingdom, in the second problem, is that they might be overthrown and destroyed by foreign kingdoms. And we know that the Diamond Kingdom, for one, we know the Diamond Kingdom is a problem. They're like the direct most threatening people to the Clover Kingdom. We know the Spade Kingdom is the largest, and I think the potentially the most powerful in terms of a nation, because they're the largest. They're the only one connected to another continent. Everything on this one with the Clover, Spade, Diamond, and Heart Kingdom, it's all in one continent. And you can see, actually, if you just look up Black Clover World, or Black Clover map, it will show you theirs, and it will show you the four kingdoms. And the only one that spreads out, it's literally their whole continent. It's like a big leaf coming off of a plant. I mean, I'm wondering if that's what it's going to end up looking like. Maybe that's what it's going with. But we know the Spade Kingdom is a threat. The one that I think, personally most concerned about is the Heart Kingdom, because they're made notice in the data book that they're an ally of the Clover Kingdom. And I just had this suspicious feeling that they're in that kind of like, hey, you know, we're allies and friends, but secretly, you know, they got spies all over, and they're trying to get information out of your kingdom. Like, they probably already know that, like, what happened between the elves and the Clover Kingdom and whatnot. And then he reveals that the last thing is that Asta is going to die. So that's an interesting one. We all know he's not going to die. Let's just get that straight out in the open. He's the main character. The main character. There's no way the main character could die in a series unless it's the very end. There are series where the main character ends up dying, but the main character is not going to die, like, after the first major arc of how you know, who knows how long this series is going on. That'd be kind of weird. It's like Asta dies, and it's like, hey, the new main character is Luck. Throw Luck in there. Go get him, Tiger. Shoot lightning bolts at him. But no, that's more, in my mind, curious of maybe he just noticed something about the five-leaf grimoire that that will affect Asta. Or maybe it's not directly him, it's that the demon is coming for him. Maybe from all those events, the other demons from the shadow, or they're from the other world, the other dimension. Maybe they saw all that going on because the Shadow Palace is between those two worlds. Maybe he actually knows now, or maybe they know what's going on with Asta. They have an idea of who he is, and they now want to go after him. Because there could be a level of interest, but there could also be a level of revenge. We don't know who, you know, how the Word Devil probably had some companions back in his realm, and they might be pretty pissed at this. Not really, maybe the human, either maybe both the human and some spry anti-magic demon killed somebody that they knew. I'm very curious of that aspect of what it'll be. Because I feel like it won't just be like, Asta, you're gonna die in 7 days. Yeah, he watched the Ring. But I think it'll be more like, you're gonna die because these people are after you. And he's gonna explain like a couple demons, or we're gonna find out some more demons. I think it's gonna be more like that than versus just like a straight up like, you're gonna die. I think a good example is like Peering Over. Again, I gotta use another fairy tale reference because people know how much, anyone who's frequent my channel knows how much I've enjoyed fairy tale. It's my favorite manga. There's a part in there where in Natsu's Inner Mind, Igniel tells him that he's going to die, and later it's kind of like actually brought up, it's not you're gonna die, it's really you who you are is gonna die, because once the demon seed and the dragon seed merged, he would no longer be himself. He'd pretty much become this new being, essentially. It would be not him. It'd be the idea of who you are dying. So maybe that's what it'll be with Asta, but it's more of like a premonition of what's to come. I don't know. Very short chapter. I'm surprised there wasn't like a big spread page in all this, like a really big detailed one, because usually that's one of the ways that they get by having a short chapter. It's only 11 pages. I don't know. Tabata, I'm fine with it. Like, Tabata just recently, if you don't know, he just had his first kid. So I imagine, you know, these couple next chapters, he might be taking it a little bit short, and we're going to be getting more build up. Like, I mean, we could easily get, like, some chapters of the characters just interacting and talking for a little bit. We just had a straight, like, 78 chapter arc of almost back-to-back action. Like, everything was like, here's action, and then here's some lore and some character information and character action. Then motherfucking action again, and it was just pretty wild. We got to soothe down a little bit. You know, it doesn't have to draw so many, like, crazy dynamic panels and think of, like, fighting choreography. We just have some characters talking, and and just, you know, the aftermath of everything and the warm glow of this big battle. Yeah, no, I think he deserves it. He's been working real hard, and obviously first kid, so you got to imagine that he's going through some new experiences as a person. But anyway, drop a comment below about this. I actually really like this. There were some really good shots in this chapter, just some small ones, and not the one of William crying. I still will never forgive William for these things. Well, I wouldn't say never. I'd say William would have to do something really significant for me to, like, be like, okay, you've made up for all those crimes you committed. But, like, I really like that panel, like, right after that, where you see just the big layout of the Clover Kingdom, and then obviously this map shot I just really liked, because I enjoy maps. I enjoy seeing the maps of worlds and stuff. It's just cool. Other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, but friend the like button and the subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Other than that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.